Okay, well, thank you very much, Chancellor.
We have a quorum whenever you're ready, trustee.
We are ready to start, and I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask Kayla to please call the roll.
Trustee McMahon,
Present.
trustee Kane,
Here, good morning.
trustee Martin,
Here.
trustee Riley,
Here.
and we have a quorum.
Okay, well, the first item on the agenda is a presentation by the student reps to the Board of Trustees, which I think I can say on behalf of the trustees, we're really looking forward to. So I think that Katie is leading this, but I'm not absolutely sure, but whoever it is, take it away.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here. Can we get those slides pulled up to share?
You're not waiting on me to pull them up, are you?
Oh, I can pull them up. Sorry, I didn't even understand. Sorry, I was waiting on that, but I can do it on my end. That works.
Oh, we're waiting. Did you just want to introduce yourself briefly, Katie?
Sure. I don't mind doing that. Okay. So I'm Katie Ashley. I am a PhD candidate in plant science, and I'm the grad student rep here at the University of Maine. And I'll go ahead and, can you all see my screen? Just want to double check. Yep. Perfect. I feel like no matter how many years of Zoom, I'm still making little faux pas. So good to hear that you can see my screen. So the student reps, we have been chatting a lot lately about our renewed interest in sharing the activities that occur on our campuses, especially to give insight into sort of the infrastructure that we have in terms of sharing information, both to and from the Board of Trustees back to our student bodies. And this is especially important now as we think about the role that student government plays in the appointing of new student trustees. So for that reason, Aiden had the amazing idea of presenting on the state of our student governments. And so here on our first page, you see some aerials of some of our beautiful campuses in the fall. And we will have Aiden go first with Farmington.
Hello. We started with all the pretty pictures because I have a big block of text for you. I'm not going to be reading all of that. I trust we are, even this early in the morning, we're all literate. The UMF Student Senate is a bit in the middle of the road in terms of organization. We are a pretty small group. At the moment, we have 17 senators and 6 executive board members. We have 3 layers of organization. Our executive board is our officers, and we are the only part that serves year round. The General Assembly doesn't get elected until late September, and they'll break up towards the end. We exist under university auspices, so we go through Merrill Hall with all of our spending. And we mostly support clubs and have very little independent activity. And that's my 2 cents. Katie, back to you.
Awesome. So next, I'll go ahead and present on the University of Maine graduate student government. So here at the University of Maine, our grad student government is a 501c3. So we are a nonprofit, and we are funded primarily by student activity fees. But note that this is only for our in-person students. We're sort of in the process of navigating if our online students would also like to be represented in the same way. And I'll get into what that looks like in terms of that funding structure later. We have about 2,500 graduate students, and about 1,100 of those are in person. So that's sort of our funding structure there. Our website I have listed there if you'd like to check it out a little bit later. Really easy, umaine.edu/GSG. We have 49 senators and 8 executive members. The way that we appoint our senators is for every department has representation by a senator as long as they have up to 50 students. And then once they go over 50 students, for every subsequent 50 students, they have an additional senator, just to make sure that our larger departments are represented in such a way. We also have a brand new executive officer position that will actually be holding our election tomorrow, who will be a liaison between the newly formed Graduate Workers Union, the undergrad student government, and the graduate student government. We meet bi-weekly. So every other week we have a Senate meeting, and then on the bi-weeks we have executive meetings. We have a large number of committees ranging from sustainability through to awards and socials, finance, DEI, grants, student symposium, and our advocacy committee. I'm not going to go too much into the student symposium, but this is an event that occurs in the spring semester that is a collaboration between undergraduates and graduate students. And it's really a campus-wide research showcase. One of our largest programs is our grants program. We distribute about $100,000 every academic school year for individuals and for clubs. So our individual grants are either travel to present or degree related. So this could be going to a conference and presenting your research or funding your research activities on campus. And then last but not least, one of our big initiatives, especially in the past few years, has been promoting our socials and our community, especially as we emerge from the pandemic and we really want to get back to a place of having community for grad students. So a lot of the pictures that I've included here are a number of these social events we've had just in the past few months. On the left-hand side, all of us dressed up all swanky was at our graduate student formal, or as we jokingly called our grad prom, which was really great. We got to celebrate graduating grad students as well as just celebrate our student body. On the top right, we recently had our Senator Appreciation meeting over at a local brewery, which was a really, really good time. The kind of middle picture and to the right is our orientation event. So at the beginning of every semester, we welcome new grad students with information sessions and information fairs of resources on campus and also in the community. And then we have a social where we get together with current and incoming grad students to really set them off on the right foot in terms of knowing people that can support them and can give advice on what grad school is. And last but not least, we've been getting involved in intramurals, which has been really fun. So that's us playing flag football out in the rain earlier this school year. So it's been a lot of fun, but our big focus has been working on that community that we can offer to grad students. So with that, we'll move on to the undergrad student government at UMaine.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Doherty. I'm the undergrad UMaine student rep for the board. Here's just a little bit about our organization. Similar to the grad student government, we're a 501c3. We're funded by the activity fee of the undergrads here at this campus. We get the entire undergrad fee as opposed to the grad students getting a portion. We currently have roughly 20 senators. We're fluctuating a little because it's still early in the semester. We have 8 representatives who represent groups of organizations on campus. The Greek life, different DEI organizations, some of the sports clubs. We also have 6 execs who are paid. They work roughly between 15 and 30 hours a week in our office. They do organizational things, background things, keeping clubs up to date, the finances of the organization, new initiatives, things like that. We also have 4 paid ex officio members. We have an executive secretary in our office. We also have an assistant to the VP of Finance who handles payroll and HR. And we also have a full-time attorney who's employed by our organization. Last year and this year, we roughly distributed $750,000 in funds to clubs. That does not include salaries or office budgets for those clubs. So that is distributions that came after our annual budget had been worked out. Some notable ones recently, we funded the beekeeping club to have more equipment to help make chapstick and candles and help with jarring. We also funded 2 students to go to the mountain biking New England National Championships and a group of 10 students to go to Model UN in the Carolinas this year. We meet once a week. We have meetings on Tuesday nights. They're streamed live online we have a Zoom enabled room. We also have an executive meeting on Mondays with just the executive team. And then we also have a cabinet meeting, which involves different rep boards, the executive team, and some handpicked members of Senate by the president. Currently, our biggest events that we put on every year are the concert. That's our most major event. At the end of every year, we host a concert. It's free to all UMaine Orno students. We get some big name artists. We had Jack Harlow a few years ago. We also do the student symposium with the grad students. We funded that the last few years, a portion of it. We love that because it helps showcase student research. Get a lot of attendance to that every year. Next slide, Katie. Here's just a few photos from our organization. One of our kind of rolling events that we do are free movie tickets for students every Wednesday night here in Orno. You can just show up, show your ID, get a free ticket. We currently have a speaker series rolling every week. We have a guest speaker in our Senate. A few members of administration, I believe, are attending this year. In the past, we had Angus King. This is last year's student government in its entirety. We do our best to promote the professional aspect of the organization as well. We do professional headshots for them. We do trainings on Robert's rules or job applications, things along those nature. Yeah, and we also have a leadership scholarship in the bottom right. You can see there this semester we're funding, I believe it's 2 $1,000 scholarships and 3 $500 scholarships. And yeah, thanks, Katie.
All righty, next we have UMPI.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Samantha. I'm the student rep here at UMPI. So our SGA is a little bit smaller than some of the other schools you've already seen. We're funded by our student activity fees. We only get about half of that. So I think, for example, last year we had right around $30,000, and most of that money went actually towards some scholarships that we give out yearly. Right now we have 3 members on the board. We're supposed to have 4, but we just don't have enough people currently to do that. And we do have 3 senators as well who show up when we have voting matters, but usually aren't there for our meetings. We meet once a week usually, but sometimes we have to meet more than that just because we have so much to do with so few people. We don't have any current committees that we're running. And on campus right now, we have about 15 student-led clubs. We have seen that number increasing, but we're hoping that we can try and get some of those kids from those clubs, like 1 or 2 representatives from each, to kind of move over to SGA. But yeah, that's pretty much all we do here. So.
Alrighty, Southern Maine.
Hello, my name is Andrew Seal. I'm the student representative from the University of Southern Maine. I'll quickly fly through the composition of how our student government works, but I mostly want to focus on the successes and challenges of what we do here. So we're divided into 2 divisions, the Student Government Association and the Student Body President's Office. We have 21 undergraduate student senators, 6 SBPO representatives, and 8 SGA committees within that. And those SGA committees include the Lewis and Auburn Committee, Constitutional Review, Finance, Public Relations, Racial Inequality, Grievance, Public Safety, and Online Students. However, our Racial Equality Committee has recently been renamed to an acronym that's pretty long, so I didn't include it in here. But some of the successes that we've seen as a student senate is, I'm sure you all saw President Riley Worth's speech during President Edmondson's inauguration. That's pretty incredible for a student body president that's new to his role. We were also working on the construction of the largest esports arena in Maine. We secured a pretty large donation for that, and we're currently working on kind of like establishing a conference that people can attend to, see how that's going on, and like how esports is actually going to operate within that arena. We have 40 plus clubs under our jurisdiction, and that's increased because we have approved 5 new constitutions in the past 2 weeks. And the student trustee will also be a part of the student body president's office once that's approved later on. The Commuter Student Association often invites freshmen to Old Orchard Beach. So we've kind of been involving the new class in all of our activities, making sure that, you know, they feel welcome and safe here within our community. And we also had a dunk tank where we did dunk President Riley Worth at our homecoming event. So some of the challenges that we've been facing, a lot of our resources, our financial resources, go towards stipends. And one of the issues with that is 20% goes to stipends that do not produce enough work. So we currently passed a bylaw, or we just passed a bylaw that states that you have to provide a 100-word summary of what you do every 2 weeks, and then you'll receive your stipend. And that was not well received within the student body. So we're currently working on workshopping that, but you know, we do want to make sure that, you know, the money that we're bringing forth goes towards supporting students on campus. Let's see, COVID also hurt student engagement quite a bit. We're seeing pretty low attendance within our events. Although our campus activities board often hosts events like Pingo that has over 200 people attending per event. So that's pretty incredible for how our engagement works. And another issue that we're finding is SMCC and grad students that live in the Portland Commons aren't allowed to participate in our events because they don't pay the student activity fee money. And that's something that we're looking to change, because we have people that want to play club sports, people that want to join clubs, but they're not able to because we can't technically roster them within those organizations. So that's something that we would like to change in the future. But that's all I have for USM.
Alrighty, we'll move over to the grad side of USM. Ava, I think that your speaker's a little bit crackly, or your mic's a little crackly. It's hard to hear you.
How is that? Is that better?
Oh, that's so much better.
Okay, apologies. And so at USM, we have AGSB, and there are 2 co-chairs currently, and they're looking to add 2 more soon, and they'll be updating that as that happens. And then just for information, they emphasize advocacy and the community and engagement among the graduate students, and are hoping to sort of expand on what they do. It sounds like they're sort of working through what they're interested in emphasizing. And it is just students who are interested in engagement at the university. They're not appointed. And yeah, so that they have upcoming meetings online as well to introduce folks to what they do.
Awesome. We'll head over to Augusta. Tony here. Not seeing him. Well, I'll read over this really quickly. So they've got their composition here of their student government. Looks like they have, they exist in both Augusta and Bangor. They have the graduate associate, or I'm guessing this is their government association, is made up of students from both of these campuses. They have their independent president and vice president at both campuses. And Bangor positions are mostly full, and then Augusta is lacking some, but they're working on filling that. They meet monthly at their joint campus meetings, and then the executive board meets once a month. And they've got their mission statement here, but I won't read that just in the interest of time. And we will move on to next, law school. Is Lisa here? Not seeing Lisa. Okay, I'll put on my law school hat too. So over at the law school, they don't have a student government, but they have a student bar association, which is their equivalent. They've got their sort of mission statement up here at the top right, which once again, I won't read for the interest of time. It's also in the packet materials. But their structure, they have 24 elected student members that represent their 1, 2, and 3 Ls. They have international and flex time students that are led by the board, and they have their president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and director of communications. They have budget, bylaws, events, fundraising, and public service committees. They have weekly meetings, and there are over 20 active student organizations. Some of their major events and outreach include their holiday party, their Barristers Ball. They have Follies, which are SNL style comedy and variety shows, which I would love to see. That sounds great. They have group outings to events like the Portland Sea Dogs and the Maine Mariners, and they also do Maine Needs Cleaning Kit Assembly. And we'll move to Fort Kent. Let's see, is JJ here? Okay, I'll read through Fort Kent as well. I don't see JJ on here. So they've got their preamble here for Fort Kent, their student government association. They were founded by the Student Senate. They have weekly Senate meetings on Wednesdays, and all of their positions are full at the moment. And they have a number of committees. They have their budget committee, fundraising, events, and public services committees. And they have more than 7 active student clubs. Oh, let me click. Righty. So I will stop the share. That's the end of our presentation, but we'd love to have answer any questions that you all may have, or any thoughts that have come up through this presentation of our different student governments.
So trustees, questions? Chair Riley.
Thank you. This is very informative. I have a comment first. I'm really pleased to see that the University of Maine still has free legal services, because that started when I was student government president. That was the first time we ever did it. It's been that means it's been around a long, long time. Really important. Can you speak a little bit, each of you, to the role of student government in being a voice in Maine for the value of our system, the education you're receiving, fighting for bond issues, helping in the public policy and public relations arena?
I can take that one first. So our organization does encourage political activism. We do have a political activism representative. A number of our members go and give testimony on a variety of bills that they support, and we greatly encourage that. We often don't fund directly those things due to our bylaws. We're not allowed to fund direct support of a party or a political ideology, but we do support those usually through rides or assistance. In terms of advocacy for students on campus, we reach out to the students at least once a year and get kind of a survey from them to see what they're thinking, what they want from us, activities, policy changes, things that they want us to pursue. In past years, I know during COVID, just before I was part of this organization, they pushed heavily for a pass-fail option for courses here on this campus due to the nature of COVID and online classes. In recent years, there have been requests for changes in safety policies here on the campus that have been discussed at the Senate. Yeah, that's where representation is for us at this point.
Okay.
I can jump in and answer the next part of that. At Farmington, we talk to the president about every month. I, as vice president, and the president of the student senate, talk to the president of the university, and we discuss problems and theoretical solutions. And a couple of those have been actualized. And then my committee, the Student Rights and Affairs Committee, we have put student activity fees into more lighting, where we thought like walking down to the Front Street parking lot at night is a little dangerous. You're gonna slip and break something. So we put money for more street lights, and that is our crowning achievement of recent memory in terms of for the students.
Thank you. Trustee Martin.
This is this is an amazing presentation, and I just want to thank you all for your commitment to the students. Creating a vibrant community and advocating for our students is, I mean, that's what it's all about. Your efforts to make the campus is a place the students want to be has always been important, but never as important since the post-pandemic, when we're trying to emerge from being under locked up, and the just getting back into the campus and making people feel like there's an awesome pulse in the community, the campus community. I kind of smiled when Orno was talking about beekeeping. I don't know how many fans of the CBS Sunday morning news show with Joan Pauly and David Fiacco and the Beekeeping Club were highlighted there. I think it was this summer. But anyway, these are the things that really it's not always the academics that keep people on campus. People are going to school to get ahead, but sometimes student success relies on a good network of community, and it's so important. So I thank all of you for your commitment, and I know it's a big task, especially carrying a load of heavy load of courses, and sometimes hard to fit that in schedules, but it's much needed while you're in college and in the world after you leave the college setting. Building that vibrant community and advocating for the communities that you'll belong in are super important. So I applaud all of you. It's a very nice presentations.
Thank you. Any other questions? Katie and your team, thank you very much indeed. We sincerely appreciated everything that you told us. And I'm hopeful the trustees, as I did, learned a lot from the presentation today. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in Presque Isle, and stay on for the rest of the meeting. The next part of the meeting came out of the discussion that we have with the faculty reps before each board meeting, and there was questions raised about early college. And so now Amy Hubbard is going to present early college, where it's at, where it's going, and then there's going to be a faculty-led discussion on early college. And my request would be that the trustees allow the faculty to ask questions first after the presentation, and then as trustees we follow on. But this is really the faculty-led discussion. And thank you, Amy.
Great, thanks for having me. And just a quick check, can everyone see my screen? I'm seeing some nods, thank you. Yeah, I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about early college. And as Trustee McMahon mentioned, I'll just give I know there are some new folks to the committee, so I'll give an overview, some next steps, and then happy to participate in the discussion with faculty members regarding early college. So I always start with early college definitions. These will be familiar to some of you, but for folks that may be new, early college has a lot of terminology. So early college is the umbrella term that refers to all of the programs that we operate. This includes online, on campus. Those are obviously courses taught by college faculty. Concurrent enrollment is the term used nationally to talk about those courses taught by high school teachers that work in collaboration with the university faculty. And then Bridge Academy is a subset of concurrent enrollment. There is a separate Bridge Academy initiative, a separate organization that runs that in close collaboration led by University of Maine at Augusta. And that is a specific focus on CTE programs. This slide shows the enrollment in early college. This is unduplicated headcount. If you looked at duplicated headcount for 2022 and 2023, there would be over 6,700 students. So when we talk about unduplicated students, it's really focusing on, we have a lot of students that take courses in multiple institutions. This is a trend that has been increasing since the early college system-wide initiative to have our campuses work closely together and to provide broader access to Maine students. So for example, in 2017, there were a little over 200 students that took courses at multiple institutions. And by 2023, we had 1,055 students taking courses at multiple institutions. So you can see the system initiative and the collaboration has really provided more opportunities for students. For 22-23, I can also share that includes 600 students that are also taking courses at the Maine Community College system. So we are now able, based on our collaboration with them, to track the students who take courses at our institutions and within the Maine Community College system. This is just a quick snapshot of enrollment by university. And again, this is unduplicated headcount. And you can see at all of our campuses, the enrollment has grown significantly. There's a slight dip for Fort Kent for 2023, but we do have some strong numbers for Fort Kent. There's some new leadership there that's been outstanding, really making some inroads there. You can see Farmington has really grown significantly. When we started the system-wide initiative, Farmington did not have a lot of activity, so they've grown significantly. But across the board, all of our campuses have made strong efforts to build those partnerships and relationships with our high school stakeholders. And then I always like to share student success rate. My favorite graph, if we were going to put this data on course completion in a graph, it would be a straight line, which is quite boring, but it does show that despite increasing enrollment and providing broader access to our students are largely successful in their classes. This is during high school. What is also notable is that in 2018 to 2019, we increased access to students by removing those barriers nationally that have been identified to prevent access, particularly to students who might not otherwise consider themselves college bound. So we don't have minimum GPA requirements. We don't require standardized test scores. We don't ask our high school partners to provide transcripts for our students. We really have an open access policy. Students do still have to meet course prerequisites, but for courses that don't have prerequisites, we really are open access, provided the high school approves those students for those courses. Also notable in 2019 was that we removed all of the fees. So university leadership agreed to remove course fees for students, recognizing that we do get reimbursed for tuition. And again, that is a significant barrier to student access. And Maine is very unique in that initiative, providing free access to students, which is why you can see those numbers have increased so significantly. And then once students enroll in the University of Maine system, you can see that our students perform very well. So this modality shows if students take courses online or on campus, their GPA 2.9, concurrent enrollment, their GPA is a 3.1, and then compared to students who have had no early college. I would like to point out the concurrent enrollment stat. So this really does show, the question often comes up, are our concurrent enrollment, those students who are taking classes at their high school, are they performing when they matriculate? And the answer is yes, they do perform very well when they matriculate, which shows that our high school teachers are doing a great job of providing those students with a college experience so that they're ready when they matriculate. And then our retention numbers are also strong. So this chart shows, rural versus urban compared to students who don't have early college. And you can see that across the board, rural versus urban, or compared to students who have not had early college, we do have stronger retention rates. The question that often comes up, one of the misconceptions about early college is, well, students who participate in early college are already more prepared, so of course they're going to perform better. And I understand that concern, and that is why I look to the national data on early college, and nationally they do what's called propensity score analysis, and they match students up based on their characteristics academically. And the studies do show nationally that students do perform well when they have early college, whether or not, when students are matched up based on academic preparation. In addition, as I showed, our students perform well starting in 2018 when we reduced the barriers to access. So even though we're reducing the barriers, our students are still performing well, and they're still getting those high grades when they enroll. So I'm very confident in our numbers saying that early college does make a difference. We won't say causation, you know, it's a strong correlation, but I do feel very, very confident when I say that early college participation does make a difference in student access and success. This slide shows enrollment following high school graduation. I know Trustee McMahon, you had asked for data on the Maine Community College system, how many students matriculate to the community college system. That data are not available yet, but as soon as it's available, we will provide it. I reached out to those folks and they will provide it as soon as possible. But you can see that our matriculation rates are strong. This dotted line shows how many students apply and enroll in the University of Maine system after graduation as a total. And you can see that if students have early college, they are more likely to matriculate to the University of Maine system. And then what's particularly important if you're looking at college access and participation on the broader scale, 56% of Maine students go to college, but if they have early college, that number is 68%. So we are comfortable saying that students who have early college are more likely to matriculate to the University of Maine system. And of course, they're more likely to attend college as well. This dip you can see between 2021 and 2022, there has been a significant jump in the number that did matriculate to the Maine Community College system. So in 2021, there were 196 students that went to the community college system. And in 2022, when the free college initiative started, we had 282 of our students that matriculated to the community college system. So typically 6 to 8% of our students matriculate to MCCS, but in 2022, that number was 9%. So, and then the year before it was 7%. So 2% more students went to MCCS, and you can see that's pretty close to the difference, this little dip here. So we're pretty comfortable in the statement that the students that we lost likely went to the community college system. We are working closely with Jeff St. John in his office in the direct admit program. So we have access to unique data sets on high school students. So we have been working closely with Jeff St. John and the IR team to combine our data with their data on the direct admit program. We participated in that pilot that has been very successful. We also worked closely with the students who were part of that pilot over the summer to make sure that those early college students were getting support. And we also have access to parent data, and we keep a database of all of our high school administrators. So we have because students, in order to participate in our program, have to provide a lot of information, we're able to provide detailed information on those students so that we can encourage more students to participate. And I'll talk a little bit at the end about some other initiatives that we're taking to encourage matriculation. This is called a Sankey diagram, and it is definitely tricky to follow, but you can see where students enrolled in early college on the left-hand side. The first part is the number, the total number of students, and then the right-hand number is the percent of those students. And you can see in brown that 24% or 729 students were enrolled in more than one institution. And then on the right-hand side, where they matriculated and eventually enrolled. And so you can see the largest percent of students do matriculate at the University of Maine. You can see that in red, the 9% that went to the Maine Community College system. We did have 8% other public institutions, 10% other private institutions. And the number that really keeps me up at night is that part in gray did not enroll 32%, so 991 students. And so that's the number that I'm really focused on in terms of tackling those students who have taken early college classes. We know that majority of our students are successful, but 32% do not enroll at all. I'm hoping that the direct admit program will really help move this number. And then as I noted, I'll be sharing some initiatives that we are taking to work on that number. first year graduation rate. So again, you can see when you compare early college to no early college, the number is higher, and these are based on cohorts. As you can tell, with 6-year graduation rates, we're always, the data are always lagging. So I'm also again interested in seeing, as we move towards the years 2018, 2019, that we're providing those additional supports and the system-wide collaboration efforts. We hope that those numbers will increase, but they're still significantly higher than students who do not participate in early college. Some of this, as the national research shows, is due to having that it builds a buffer. Early college builds a buffer. So if a student is not successful in a course or they change majors, having those early college credits just gives them a little bit of buffer to fall back on. So having a few of those classes, they already have their English, they already have their prerequisites. They have some room in their schedule to make some changes, or if there's a bump in the road while they're in college. We have added for the first time in the past 2 years, year and a half, some additional supports at the system office. We also run the AP for Me program. So we have a person who is the AP for Me and early college coordinator. She provides direct support. So we really try to support our campuses at the system level so that our campus teams can focus on their relationships with high school students, teachers, direct support to those teams. That person also provides data and analysis to support that direct admit initiative. And I'll talk more about Let's Get Ready. We also just added an early college advising and success coordinator. So we don't want to just increase our numbers. We want to ensure that our students are successful. And we do have students that have not been successful in their early college courses. So she's providing direct outreach to those students, trying to get them signed up to repeat the courses that they were not successful in, to develop plans. She's also working on the Pathways initiative. We're adding a new module to our application system to help ensure that early college students sign up for credits with purpose and align with their career goals. And finally, as I mentioned, student support to improve matriculation. We have partnered with a nonprofit organization called Let's Get Ready. Their numbers are very strong. 86% of their students enroll in college, and they do focus primarily on underrepresented low-income students. 87% persist, 68% graduate within 6 years. So all of the University of Maine system early college students who graduate in 24 and 25 will receive this peer-based, it's a text-based mentoring system. They get SAT prep, they get text from from college students with a set curriculum. And so we do get sample text and sample data. We've enrolled so far 1,500 students. What's really exciting is that regardless of where students matriculate, Let's Get Ready follows them for up to 6 years after they graduate. So our seniors that are taking early college this year will have that support regardless of where they matriculate. Another factor with having this consistency in support for those students is we know that Maine students often leave their freshman year. They want to get away. They want to leave the state. It seems exciting. And then they come back. And when students come back to Maine, they come to our public institutions. I'll just share personally, my son's graduating class, his entire friend group went all over New England. They are all at the University of Maine. By junior year, they had all matriculated to the University of Maine. We are able to direct some of these texts per year. So we can remind students that, about those transition services. And if they are not happy at the institutions that they matriculate, if they happen to be outside of our system, we can encourage them to come back to us and land where they started. So we're really excited about this initiative. I've been in discussion with my supervisor, Carolyn Dorsey, about working with the UMS Transforms Alphon grant for student success to see if maybe we can expand this program and include this year's juniors. So we're really trying to provide these resources and mentorship as early as possible. And these resources include things that we aren't able to provide in our early college office. We really need to focus on getting those students into our classes and helping them in those classes. And this organization focuses on filing the FAFSA, writing your college essay, visiting college campuses. How do you do a virtual visit if you can't visit? So there's a lot of resources that they're able to provide. This is what they do so that we can focus on early college. It's been a really great partnership that I'm excited about. And then finally, you're welcome to visit our website for more information. And there is some information there about the work that we do in collaboration with the Maine Community College Systems. So I have a great partnership with Mercedes Poor, my colleague and counterpart at the Maine Community College System. We have weekly meetings. We also meet monthly in person in Augusta with the Department of Education. We're working with the team there on revising the statute, which is outdated. We're also looking at revising the funding model. So we have exceeded aspirations funding every year since the beginning of time. Every year we exceed, and the department has been very generous in finding funds, but the model is a challenge. So that's why we focus more on student success versus increasing enrollment. We just don't have the capacity within the state funding allocation model in order to grow without limitations. Also, we have conducted in collaboration with some national organizations, we had some focus groups, and we put out an equity report to look at how early college in Maine, in collaboration with the University of Maine system and the community college system, can promote equity. We also conducted a series of stakeholder groups for LD 1880, which originally started as a book bill, and we looked at the larger picture of early college in Maine. And those are the guiding forces behind the work that we're doing right now with the DOE, is basically implementing the recommendations that came out of two sets of stakeholder groups. Most recently, Mercedes and I have been selected to participate in a national conversation based on a grant from the Gates Foundation and the National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships. And the reason that we were selected is that Maine has built a system on collaboration rather than state statute, which NACEP feels is a lot more replicable. So Maine is the only state in the country that has an application portal that is shared between the Maine Community College and the University of Maine system. So we're the only state in the country that has those two disparate organizations working so closely that on the backside for counselors, it's a seamless transition. And that essentially gives every high school student in Maine access to 14, all of Maine's public institutions with one unified application. So that is my overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. I understand, Patrick, that you're going to run this from the faculty perspective. No? Lisa has to leave to set up class, then she will take over. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have questions I'm happy to ask, but I wasn't able to meet with you and Jeff at the last BOT, so I'm not actually sure what the group decided to do. So I would actually hand it off to Clyde or someone else if that's cool with them.
I'm easy. Clyde, you want to carry this?
To be honest, Davis, I actually don't know what the objectives were of the discussion. I did have some questions for Amy, and I'm happy to give input from our campus. We were a little bit late to the game, so we definitely have been growing our early college program, but I don't know if I have enough to lead a discussion, but I do have some questions for Amy when we have that opportunity.
Well, why don't you go ahead with your questions and we'll get started, then Lisa can take over.
Thank you. Amy, so I had questions. Obviously, you mentioned that, for example, your son's graduating high school class, all the students ended up back at RNO. And obviously part of that was through the Let's Get Ready Foundation, the work that they did. How do they direct students as to which would be the best campuses for those students to find a home on? Because obviously, you know, for student success, the fit to where they end up versus large campus versus small campus is very important. Do they have guidelines, or how is that done?
Sure. So I just want to clarify anecdotally, because I didn't collect data on, I just know my son's friend group, so a much smaller subset of his graduating class, but there's about 10 of them that ended up at UMaine. In Let's Get Ready, we are just starting with Let's Get Ready. So I don't have data on the impact that Let's Get Ready might have on matriculation. I'm just looking at their data and their success rates combined with our data and our success rates. And again, that's to tackle that 30% for me that does not matriculate. But we, as I mentioned, we have 1,500 students that are seniors that we are enrolling. We did work with Let's Get Ready last year, and it was students had to apply for the program. We are now automatically enrolling them. We've committed the funds to automatically enroll them. So I know it's kind of a jumping off topic, but what they do is they have a set curriculum. So as I mentioned, Let's Get Ready provides text-based mentoring to students from university students, and they have a set curriculum that they follow and a set series of texts. And then all of the information that goes out initially is the same, but then when students reply, then it's a personal one-on-one conversation. And so some of those questions come up. So in your example, in your question, if a student says, well, I'm looking for this experience, then that person could reach out and say, well, here are some things that you want to do to find out if the school is a right fit. And you could do a virtual visit. You can look at this data about the school, try to get on campus if you can. So all of those things, if you're a first generation student that you might not know to look for, that's exactly what they provide. So they'll provide sort of blanket information and then personalized individual relationships with those students, which is very unique and pretty exciting.
Thank you, Amy. It sounds like a great resource for the students.
Yes, we're excited about it.
Patrick, go ahead.
Thank you so much for this fantastic presentation. My question has to do with that. I think it may have been 24% of students who go off to in-state private universities or out-of-state universities. I found that at UMA, we have quite a fantastic number of students, and a lot of them start coming to me for recommendation letters, but they're not applying to UMaine, UMA, et cetera. So I see there's a lot of great sort of support services being built. But what incentives could the a unified system offer students in terms of time or money to kind of incentivize them to come to UMaine or one of our campuses instead of private or out-of-state university?
Sure. I think working with the direct admit program is huge because we're really now giving students benefits for participating in early college. So we're catching them right away, where many of our students have already heard from and committed to matriculating to our institutions. And this is October, where in the past, those students would be treated like any other student. So I think that piece is really going to change the paradigm. At the same time, through Let's Get Ready, we're going to have those text messages go out about, hey, you're an early college student. Here's the benefit of matriculating to our institutions. In addition, our new early college success and support coordinator is creating a series of resources showing transferability across institutions. So if you took this English course, here's where it transfers to our institution. So we know we need to do a better job of showing students your best bet of getting those classes that you took with us to transfer is to come to us. And then finally, our career pathways we're working on developing that module that happens within our Explore EC system. OnCourse is the main community college side. So regardless of when students take courses across institutions, our campuses that are developing those pathways can say, for example, if you are in a STEM pathway, here are the courses that you should take to have the likelihood of transferability. Those are aligned to our academic programs at our institutions. So we can have on one hand, our early college teams and Christy, who's in that support role, say, these are the courses you should take to get you ready to go into this pathway. On the other hand, once the system is in place, we can kind of run a periodic check. And it'll say, hey, you've got 3 out of 5 courses towards this academic policy pathway at UMA. If you take these other 2 courses, you would have met that pathway. And those pathways designed to have a few gen eds and then a couple of content courses so that our students aren't just coming in with just all of those prerequisites and not those content courses, because we know that can also be a problem, having a student, just need to take biology, chemistry, physics their freshman year because they've already taken all of those prerequisites. So multi-tiered approach.
Clyde, go ahead.
Amy, so I wanted to ask a question. Like strategically, obviously there is, through the state model, there's a limited amount of money that we have to kind of subsidize the early college program. How are students prioritized, and who gets it and who doesn't get it?
So right now, the way the statute is written is all, and that's a model that I support because I never want to be in a position where I have to choose who has access and who doesn't. We may have students that don't have, maybe academically strong and may have resources in their family, but because of where they're located geographically, do not have access to advanced opportunities, advanced coursework. A lot of our rural schools are using early college for those opportunities. So I would not support any program where we would say it's only available to students from low income, or it's only available to students who are struggling academically. I really like the all model, but at the same time, we want to be fiscally responsible and ensure that the courses that students take are purposeful and aligned to those academic pathways, as I mentioned. So my goal is to provide more students with fewer credits versus fewer students with more credits. And that's really what we're working on closely with the DOE in collaboration with the community college system. So we may be capping. Right now, the way the statute is written is students can take 12 every year for 4 years. We don't think students need 48 early college classes. So that's the credits. That's the approach that we're taking, is let's use the money more strategically versus limiting who can access those programs.
David, hope you don't mind me just jumping in there just to ask Amy another question. Amy, so obviously when the program started, it was driven a lot by kind of initiative from faculty from different campuses and programs to reach out to different high schools across the state. What I was wondering, is it more systemized and strategic now? Is there any attempt to align high schools regionally to the campuses that are located in those regions? Is there any attempt to make sure that kind of high schools are reached that have not been kind of included in the program? Or is it, I don't mean it the wrong way, is it kind of haphazard, and who's reached out and who's been more aggressive at reaching out to different campuses to potentially get students from those high school campuses?
Sure, that's a great question. I appreciate that. So it has been strategic since the system involvement, and that has largely been driven by faculty, because we have to have the faculty liaison that supports early college for every single concurrent enrollment class. This has been particularly important that our faculty that are our liaisons are involved actively. Every one of our campuses is moving towards national accreditation through the National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships, and there are very strict and rigid standards through NACEP. And so everyone is on years, I call it year zero. This is year zero moving forward. Everybody has to 100% align, to NACEP standards. And so we have some departments that don't support early college in a content area. And so instead of looking regionally, if we went regionally, that may sound like we would be better supporting our students, but actually it would hurt our students, because if you don't have faculty in that region that's willing to support early college, we can't offer it. So what we do instead is we have had faculty leave a university, or we've had institutions not been able to offer a resource. I've focused most of the growth on Farmington because they were looking to grow. And so we would lean heavily towards Farmington first. And you can see those numbers reflect that. And Farmington faculty have been really strong in coming on board and understanding early college and really supportive. And then if Farmington can't offer that opportunity, we go out to other institutions. And it's really a dialogue between our leaders at each institution, discussing and collaborating with each other. Fort Kent and UMPI, for example, have had a lot of overlap, and it was really a bit, as you mentioned, haphazard. And so they worked together and said, what makes the most sense? Well, our director of early college at UMPI is also a math faculty. And she said, why don't I take the math? And then she gave away her English so that Fort Kent had a strong contingent of English liaisons. And so it was broken up that way. So it is very strategic, and it's also very collaborative. We call it cooperation. You know, sometimes there's a little bit of competition, but we have some departments that just say, no, we're not working with early college at all. So instead, we go to a different department at a different university that will work with early college. So that really provides broader access to our students instead of limited access. In terms of high schools, one of the driving factors with high school access is that there's no mandate for high schools in terms of how they use early college credits. So we have some high schools that won't even include early college on their transcripts at all. And that's a conversation that we're having. I can see you shaking your head at the state level, because we've had students withdraw from our classes because their high school was not going to count it. My own son had to take English comp and senior English because they would count the English comp as an elective, but they wouldn't count it as a content class for graduation. So, if it wasn't for me being the parent and saying, you're going to do this, my son wouldn't have had that opportunity. So there are high school policies that we're up against, and that's where the collaboration with the community college and our partners at the Department of Ed have really come into play, to look at the percent enrollment by high schools and to look at the individual high school policies and provide that information to those high schools to show that they're not serving their students effectively by these policies that are limiting how they show early college on their transcripts.
Thank you, Amy. It sounds complicated. I would imagine that local politics and who's on the boards at the high schools might play a role. It would be good if it was standardized across the state to provide that opportunity.
Yeah, we're a local control state, so if only they were as collaborative and standardized as we are. At the system level, we've aligned. We don't have that luxury, so it's we take the approach of, look at, we're going to show your percent. Look at where you are on this graph. 6% of your students have participated instead of 20 at this other institution. So there's a multi-pronged approach.
Patrick, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I was wondering if you could please speak to the demographics around early college and high school graduation rates. I see the graphs we saw today show sort of upward trends, which is awesome. But I'm mindful that at some point in Maine's future, we're going to have a smaller portion of high school graduates, and I say that with sort of the backdrop that it looks like most of the campuses are treating early college as with a higher stake in terms of their enrollment projections.
So in terms of demographics, do you mean, could you maybe give me an example of specifically what you're looking for, or just?
Yeah, do you think, is there a point where we're going to start seeing that graph go down a lot? Or, I'm just kind of curious what you're projecting over the next few years in terms of early college.
Yeah, I don't project a decline. I project that we're going to level off with some slight growth. And that's what we've seen even this year. We went up 300 students just for fall. We are going to reach a point at which, because our, Maine is on a demographic cliff with the number of high school seniors, that it's not going to continue to grow. And that does go back to the other question about where we're going to grow strategically, focusing on those underserved schools, but we're not going to continue to see that exponential growth. The impact of open access policies, collaboration, removing fees, that certainly has provided additional access, but because of the demographic cliff, we're gonna level off. I don't project that we will decline because parents are largely aware of these. Like the word is out. So we haven't really advertised, and yet we're still growing. We haven't advertised because of the limits on state funding. So it's really hard to advertise if we don't know if we're going to be able to reimburse our campuses for the tuition, yet we're still growing. So I don't see a dip, but I do see a leveling off. And that's where we're doubling down on accreditation efforts and then student support so that we can better serve the students that we have.
Thank you. Let me ask one question that Lisa asked this actually in our discussion before the last board meeting. She wanted to know what the role was or why we were different from, say, Husson or Thomas, who also run early college, and they appear to be running it under different rules and regulations than we are. And she was particularly talking about, I think, concurrent enrollment and how she had to police, her word, I think, the high school teachers, but there wasn't the same restriction placed by Huston and Thomas on their high school teachers. Could you comment on that a little bit?
Sure. So the main reason is that we are working towards accreditation, national accreditation. There's only one organization that has accreditation standards. For the past 5 years, we've been using the language that we are using those standards for best practice. But we, as I'm sure the faculty would agree, that we want to ensure that our programs are high quality and align with national standards. So NACEP is very specific in terms of faculty liaison need to review the syllabus to make sure that the outcomes that the high school teacher is following with their students match the outcomes at the university level. There has to be paired assessments. So we want to make sure the assessments don't have to be exactly the same, but are the outcomes of the assessment that the high school teacher is delivering the same as what is at the university level. We have to conduct program evaluation. So each early college program office has to choose an area of focus and evaluate their program. So the NETCHI, if you look at the NETCHI standards, NETCHI says we don't accredit early college, but you should follow NACEP standards. I can't speak for what Thomas and Husson do or do not do, but I can speak for what we do, and we are working towards those accreditation standards. High school teachers have to be approved by faculty liaisons. So if faculty liaisons don't approve the high school teachers based on their qualifications, we don't offer the class. And this has happened that we've had to cancel a few sections when high school teachers change and the new teacher that was hired didn't meet minimum qualifications for faculty approval. We do not offer those courses. So that, again, kind of going back to the point, we may see some dip in enrollment because those courses do not meet minimum standards by faculty. But I think we agree with faculty that we want to ensure that those high school courses meet the standards of the courses offered at the university.
Lisa, welcome back. I apologize. I asked you a question. I'm not sure I expressed it correctly, but carry on.
Yeah, no, I thank you for bringing up Trustee McMahon. Yeah, so what I see, and it's somewhat anecdotally, but I've talked to a lot of my colleagues on other campuses and my colleagues, my high school teaching instructors that I work with and other people I know in school systems. And sometimes there's kind of this shopping around. I hear from high school faculty that they got a lot of pressure from their administration in the high schools to get as many concurrent enrollment opportunities. So the ones that do it really are all in. And if UMPI won't accept it because they don't have a syllabus, like that's literally happened to me, then they'll be like, we'll try Husson, we'll try this. So there is some shopping around that happens for the path of least resistance. I give kudos to Amy that we are holding the standards that would be defined by NETCHI as referring to NACEP. And it is also, it's not just reviewing the syllabus. We have a great early college director here at UMPI, and we have to have 3 touch points through the year with our concurrent enrollment instructors in the high schools. So review the syllabus, maybe visit the class, give professional development opportunities, discipline specific for them. So I think at least at UMPI, I can say we're doing a really good job of that. I don't know. I can't speak to it system wide. I've heard some horror stories from other campuses, but I'm not going to get into that because it's just anecdotal. The other thing that happens, I think sometimes is a struggle is the timing. So often instructor decisions at high schools are decided in the summer. So there might be changes in the summer and the faculty is off contract. So the ability to get appropriate discipline faculty review and approval of a new instructor can be the timing. And often, especially up here in the county, because we have harvest break, high school starts in August, right? They're starting like the first or second week of August. So, you know, the language in our contract says it's supposed to be done the semester before, but the high schools don't always know who's teaching what. So that's another challenge. But thanks for asking the question, Trustee McMahon. And I agree with all of the answers that Amy had.
And I do, the timing is an issue. And, you know, at UMPI, you know, we had that situation just recently where a faculty high school, you know, changed at the last minute, and we were unfortunately unable to offer that section, and that is going to be a consequence. There are some alternatives. We used to call it like Early College Plus, where if we can pull together an online section quickly, which isn't always possible, particularly given the calendar, but we have done it in some cases where the content comes from the faculty member. It's offered if the online section already exists, and if the faculty is willing, then the high school teacher can be the support person. So the instruction comes directly from the high school model. So we always do our best to accommodate those situations at the high school. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, just because of the timing. And at the end of the day, again, kind of going back to this is year zero, everyone is aligning, everyone has agreed, all of the directors are on board. So you will see that quality improvement in place in all of those efforts. Everybody has committed to that, so that, you know, across the system, and we're doing it together as an early college team cohort. So everyone is on the same page to do that. Our goal is to apply for accreditation at the same time. I do have a good relationship with the executive director of NACEP, and she's agreed, like, once we get everybody accredited, we may be able to, as in the future as a system, particularly with the unified accreditation, do our renewal as a system. But a lot of those pieces of the application for NACEP are going to look the same. When you ask for student support, it's going to include the system level. When they ask, how do you register your students? There's going to be 6 applications that are going to look exactly the same, because a lot of what we do is unified across all of our teams. And our campuses, I will add, are working closely together. For example, professional development. For English, we don't need 7 English professional development events. We can have 1, and that can be offered by someone at UMPI. It could be offered by someone at Fort Kent. It could be offered by someone at USM. So those types of efficiencies, I think, that we can also realize because we're doing this as a team.
Other questions from the faculty reps? Let me check my other screen. Clyde.
Thank you, Trustee McMahon. Amy, my last question is, it's a very selfish question and related to the Farmington campus. Our president is on the call, and he will know that one of the challenges we faced at our campus is that we have a very rigorous general education program that has potentially acted as a barrier to some students. How does general education requirements play any role in how those early college students might select a campus or not?
Are you talking about in terms of matriculation?
Yes, in terms of choosing a campus, do they choose the campus that has a simplified general education, or do they just focus primarily on like the degree program they're looking for and the fit for the campus?
Yeah, that's something I would probably need to talk to our early college advisor and get back to you, because I don't work directly with students in terms of what factors come into their decision making. I'm that systems perspective, the systems thinker. So I would really need to probably do some additional research on that. I do know in terms of Farmington, one of the barriers was the 4 credit limit, because students got 12 per year. And so courses at Farmington cost more. You know, they could only take 3 courses at Farmington where they could take 4 at USM. So I know that was a challenge. And Farmington has implemented some pathways, which I know have been very successful. And with the way that our campuses have worked is focusing on their strengths and appealing to students more of the strengths in the content. So where your niches are, and focusing on that. And that's what we use to promote. So I would say in terms of focusing on the gen ed as a barrier, I would really focus on what pathways align with Farmington so you can get students excited about what Farmington has to offer. But in terms of that factor, I would have to do some additional research.
Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have one question for you, Amy, and then one, I guess, really for the trustees and Humane System Administration. So the question more about early college to you is, I really like, we have these pathways at UMPI where there's like, well, are you interested in a couple of these majors? If you take this suite of courses as an early college student, it's going to set you like a year ahead by the time you're done. But the other thing is that like I mentioned in my previous comment, I'm seeing and hearing a lot of pressure from especially the career centers that are attached to high schools, where they're saying, well, we should have our students getting an associate's before they graduate high school. And sometimes there's not like 18-year-olds can only do so much, right? Like college courses are a lot of work. And tied into that, I have heard, and this is anecdotally, and I think it speaks to that sand map you showed, where a student may do an early college like foundational course, say it was partnered with UMPI or Fort Kent, and it was on calculus. So it's not even a faculty member at our campus that is teaching this. And then they end up in engineering at UMaine. And I'm hearing they're not prepared. Like their calculus transfers in and they go to a higher level and they don't have the foundation that is expected at UMaine. So I'm wondering if there's any tracking or if that's possible. You're seeing where they're going to enroll, but is there any blocks for that? Like I can speak, for example, for my own family. My daughter did a lot of early college. She went to a private school in Mass and they took it in as general elective credits. The stuff in her major, they said, you have to take that here. So I guess my question is are we setting students up to fail once they're in an upper level real college classroom if they're not getting the foundational stuff? And I don't know if that's answerable, but I'll let you speak, Amy. And then I had one other kind of philosophical question for the board.
Sure. I can only speak, again, at the system level. We have tried tracking, our IR team is phenomenal, and they've tried tracking like majors based on what students take in early college. And that was, really problematic because we could really only focus on the students who matriculate to us. In terms of broadly, our students are broadly successful when they matriculate. So if there are pockets of challenges, then that's something that we would work to address. I would suspect that as we move towards NACEP accreditation and as we've more closely aligned, we know there were situations where high school teachers did not have any communication with their faculty members. So that is only going to improve with time. When our faculty are required to review the syllabus, our high school teachers are required to submit the syllabus. They are now required to attend that PD. So if there are pockets where there are challenges and students aren't prepared, then that's where we would say that's where your professional development should focus on. So I'm, again, I can't speak to anecdotally, but I think as we move towards NACEP accreditation, that will certainly change. And then I think there was a follow-up that I might have missed.
No, I think you got it. I guess I'm just wondering, it's very common in private schools with concurrent enrollment or early college credit that they accept it, but especially if it's in your major. They're saying, yeah, we'll accept that, but it's not coming in for our major foundational course. You're going to have to take that with us. And I'm just wondering if you foresee any programs anywhere in the system kind of setting up that same kind of requirement.
I wouldn't see it within our system because that would basically be undercutting your own faculty and your own faculty liaison. There is a resource that's put out by UConn that is a transfer. UConn is the oldest program in the country, and I have great relationships with the folks there, and they put out a transferability likelihood chart. And it really is with those universities that are small, private, more elite, like WPI. None of my nephew's courses, it was the same thing. None of my nephew's courses transferred. We added language to our student and parent agreement that transferability is not guaranteed, because this did come up as a legislative initiative this year where students were like, I thought that this class would transfer and it didn't. So we are working on our own communication to say that we don't guarantee it. Within our system, we're very confident that those would continue to transfer. I think particularly with unified accreditation, that would be a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So The last thing I just wanted to bring up, I guess, for the trustees on the committee and the UMS staff in the Zoom is what I've heard from a lot of faculty is, although we are committed and we think it's good for students in Maine to have these opportunities and finish early. My kids did it. I think it's all great. In this time of concerns about enrollment, are we not kind of cannibalizing ourselves in the sense that we're going to have, you know, if this keeps growing, students, there's going to be a lot of foundational courses that we're going to have low enrollment in because students will be transferring it in. I've already noticed it, for example, in our freshman experience course here at UMPI, which is called UNV, University Experience, but I think every campus has some sort of it. And it used to be that if you had 12 credits transferred in from another school, you didn't have to take that. But because of the growth of early college, we realized these kids are coming in, they still don't know how to be a college student. So any early college credits don't count. You still have to take that UNV class. But like your English 101s, your Social 100s, whatever are the major early college trends. So the enrollment in the classroom, butts in the seats, tuition dollars is going to go down. And I just want that to, like, do we have eyes on that, or do we understand that that's a consequence as early college grows?
Lisa, I'm happy to respond to that one by way of starting and looking at early college and direct admissions in combination. We're trying to increase, even fractionally, the number of students coming out of Maine high schools who matriculate to one of our universities, because that growth over and against the number of credits taken by those students while in high school concurrently with us is potentially enormous for our universities, smaller universities, mid-size, and our larger universities. I mean, just going from the data that Amy shared earlier during her PowerPoint, I mean, over 80% of Maine high school students go somewhere else or nowhere else coming out of their senior year of high school. They don't come to us, or they don't go anywhere, or they go out of state, or they go to a private institution. We're trying, even as a small increment, year over year, to recapture some of that percentage, because that percentage growth returns a tremendous benefit for all of our universities as through the combination of early college and now direct admissions, we bring more students forward into our universities. That's the goal. I was trying to do the math in my head, but I realized Ryan probably had already done it when Amy flashed her first slide up on the PowerPoint. We're putting it very straightforwardly, and I hope you faculty on the call won't take offense to this. We're looking at market share. We want to grow our market share of Maine high school students coming to our institutions. And Lisa, one of the ways we think we can help UMPI and all of our universities, Farmington, everyone, is to grow back that market share that we've lost some of over time, and also grow back the percentage of students coming out of high school who attend college at all, one of our universities in particular, the fall following their high school graduation, because that line has dropped significantly over the last 10 years. So through this combination and through the continued work that Amy does, and all credit to her and her team, NACEP is a pro-student and heavily pro-faculty way of going about doing early college. There's no other way to describe it. Through that work and through the excellent work that Jamie Ballinger and our IR team have done, along with our enrollment managers on the direct admission side of things, we're trying to bring those two things together to drive good outcomes for our institutions. And that'll be my first answer. As a broader answer, we've been doing some work recently around calculus as one example, Lisa, the course that you mentioned. I'm happy to put that data together that Jamie and Justin Young and I have been working on, and bring it to share with you and the faculty reps and Trustee McMahon at Presque Isle when we meet in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Jeff. Let me open this up now in the last few minutes on this topic to any trustees or any questions for Amy. Trustee Martin.
Amy, thanks for this informative presentation, and thank you for your leadership and excellent work providing opportunity to the Maine students. I have to believe, I'm going to be a little bit long-winded on this. I get excited about all early college and all the opportunity that it gives our students and our institutions in our state. But I have to believe that this is probably the largest driver of first generation student enrollment. Do we have information on what percentage of the applicants coming in and then going onto our college, or actually going on to college period, our first generation?
So our numbers go between 40 and 50%, depending on how you define first gen. Because we work so closely with the community college students, I have a hard time defining students as first gen if their parents have an associate's degree. So that's usually like, 40%. If you take the strict, federal interpretation, it makes our numbers look better, but I have a hard time philosophically with that one at 50%. And then Jamie can talk about the numbers in terms of the direct admit program. So Jamie, if you want to jump in about that, that part's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting. Thank you, Amy. So for the direct admit program, the numbers that we're seeing come in currently for students who have recently been offered admission for the next fall's incoming class, about 60% of those students who are expressing interest at this point are from those underserved populations. So we don't look at first generation specifically. Instead, we're using kind of tangents to that. So we're looking at those students who are designated from federal, rural, low-income schools. We're looking at students from schools with above average free and reduced lunch rates. We're looking at students of color, of course. And for the direct admit program, we're also looking at homeschool students, which is a large population in the state of Maine, but they're often forgotten about because they don't have those supplemental supports. They don't have college counselors who are visiting their high school lobby. And so we're including those in our underserved populations. But yes, it's very promising. 60% of the students who are engaging in the direct admit program so far are from those target populations that we know we're losing student population from overall.
Thank you. That's really exciting. And it's true, the sometimes homeschool students are forgotten in all of this. And you brought up when we're talking the 991 or the 32% that are not going on further for education. Do we have the stats on those? Is that like, is that all broken up on how we can actually, is it need-based, financial? Is it confidence? Is it learning the ropes on how we can get these? I'm sure the direct admit is gonna like erase a lot of, make some of the failures turn into successes because there's a direct outreach, and I'm very excited about that. But can you speak to what's being done? And I know you've spoken a lot to it, but the opportunities with the 991 that didn't go on to school.
Yeah, so that's a black box for us because, we know who we serve and we have the data about the students that we serve. It's this, so we know who those students are when they're with us. When they don't enroll, then we don't have a record of them in the clearinghouse. But again, with the direct admit and then let's get ready, I think we will have that additional information because we now have a one-on-one mentorship relationship with all of those students. So the 1,500 seniors that are currently enrolled in Let's Get Ready through the early college program, we will be able to track them. So starting from this year's graduating class, we'll be able to have some more information. But I suspect, again, with the two-pronged approach between the direct admit and then Let's Get Ready mentorship, that number should decrease. And, we also, on the flip side, don't know that, which high school students we're not serving. I can tell you as much as you want to know about our early college students, I don't know about the students who aren't enrolled in early college. And that's another factor, is how can we get more of those high school students who aren't taking early college into our pipeline, because that pipeline will grow. And I just want to briefly address Lisa's concern about students, in terms of the idea of kind of cannibalizing ourselves. The students that come to us, one of the things to keep in mind, when they come to us, they're better prepared, they're more likely to persist, and they're more likely to graduate. So early college is providing to our institutions a better prepared, better quality student who's more likely to complete. So I think that also kind of may address your concern. Yeah, you might have some enrollment drops in some of your other classes, but then you can maybe develop programs, put those students in those higher level classes because they're going to be ready, and we say graduate on time, we say 6 years, maybe early college students will be able to graduate in 4 years, which is the goal. And we just want to get them their credentials.
I did have another question, and actually you just made another question for me. Do you think that early college is going to reduce the expense for remedial courses freshman year? Do you think, or has it?
Yeah, so I can't speak in terms of in Maine, our sample sizes are so small, but I do follow the national trends, and I'm on the research committee at the national level for NACEP, so I follow this very closely. And recent studies have come out. I've always cringed when Sam says, oh, our students save money and they graduate, on time. Like, Sam, we haven't really seen the data yet that show that. And that has come out at the national level, that when students have early college, they do reduce their debt, and that goes to the fact that they have that buffer. So even in the situation that someone had described, where the universities didn't accept all of the credits and they only counted them as gen eds, when students struggle, they have that buffer of those early college classes so that they can still maintain the trajectory of graduating on time, even if they aren't successful in a certain class. So the data do now show, I'm very comfortable saying, that students are more likely, not necessarily to graduate early, but to graduate on time, if we define on time as 4 years versus that 6-year target.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
Jim,
sorry, I feel like I'm hogging the floor, but I got one other question or comment. And I had to laugh the subset of your son's friends, because I'm going to come out with a subset of my friends' kids in regards to, we have the first contact for the most part with early college with all of these students. So, what I'm seeing with the privates, when we don't get them, we do have the first contact, but they have a rapid response and they got a personal pathway. And I find early college such an opportunity for us, and I feel that we have so much more to grow with enrollment there. What are we doing to have a rapid response? Like I said, we have the first contact, but how are we doing to better the rapid response and the personal pathway? We're sitting there guiding each one of these early college students to our campuses. And I just wanted to throw in something else, because I know there's several others that want to make a comment, but I love your SAN map. It speaks that it takes a village, to education takes a village, and it speaks to the importance of all of our faculty and staff on all of our campuses and all of our partners in the high school throughout the state. So thank you for that SAN map. It made me smile. So anyway, going back to the early college enrollment, how do we ramp up our game with recruitment?
In terms at the system level, specifically to early college, that's where we did add the student advising and success coordinator position, and she will schedule individual appointments with students. She's also our homeschool liaison. So you had mentioned the homeschool. She works closely with our homeschool students so that they have a point of contact that works on behalf of all of our institutions with those homeschool families. So in addition to the work that all of our individual campuses work very closely with all of our families and provide support, but campuses, for example, like Fort Kent, which has a staff of one, they have one director, we are providing those resources at the system level so that students do have that one-on-one interaction. That's on the early college side. She also works closely with the advising, so the system-wide advising group, to field questions and concerns. And that's sort of early college is what they call that liminal space, that space between. So at what point are they no longer early college and they become the responsibility of the university? And I think that's where that direct admit is really helping us to define that, where I reached out to Jamie earlier and said, we tried to follow the direct admit students this summer, and every time we contacted them to make sure they were okay, we found out that they were already getting support from their campuses. So we don't want to duplicate that effort. That means good, perfect. Those folks recovered. We're going to stay in our lane, and we're going to do as best of a job as we can to give them a quality experience when they're in high school, so that they'll want to matriculate to us, because this is their first experience with a university class. And if we do a good job with early college, which is what we do, really that's where our passion is, clearly where my passion is, let's focus on those kids while they're in high school so they can have a great experience. Then we can hand them a nice soft handoff to our universities, and they can take over from there.
Thank you.
Trish Riley, go ahead.
Thanks. I know we're probably running over 10. That was fabulous, Amy. My recollection is that some early colleges taught directly by our faculty, and obviously some by supervised faculty in high schools. So I have a twofold question. One is, what's the mix? How many of them are high school teachers versus direct our faculty? And second, as we move toward accreditation, which I suspect can be viewed as bureaucratic barriers, it also is a quality indicator. Is there anything in it for high school teachers to support that's a tough job. Is there anything in it for them?
Sure. 60% of our students are concurrent enrollment students, and that does go to the fact that that is the most accessible opportunity for students, where they're getting their class in a year-long environment with the support of their high school teacher, versus an online course is not for everyone. So some students that may not be successful online are successful with their high school teacher. It's a cohort. They have that direct built-in support. They have more time. They still have to meet the same learning outcomes, but they have more time. So that's something that is really, really important. And then the second part of your question, sorry, I forgot.
For as we move toward accreditation, I assume that raises expectations and what's in it for the high school teacher.
Yes, sorry, thank you. Yeah, it is a lot of work. The standards are very reasonable in terms of, if when you look at standards, and sometimes you question, like, really, do we need to do that? None of those standards I could say that about. It really is one of those that passes that straight face test. If you throw it in front of a faculty member, like, oh, that really makes sense. So all of the standards really do make sense from a quality perspective. As I noted, we may see some drop in numbers where we have had high school teachers who did not want to do that work, did not want to submit a syllabus. And so we gave them an out. It's part of our memorandum of understanding that they're required to. We have had some struggles with our high school teachers because it does mean more work for them. And so they do have to raise the bar. What we're really trying to do, we don't have the funding to support the high school teachers. We really have focused in terms of our philosophy on providing support to those students. So from a financial standpoint, all of the universities accepted less funding. We don't get fees. The university has accepted that. We waive half of the tuition. If we tried to pay our high school teachers, I did the math, and we wouldn't be able to have early college staff if we were trying to pay the high school teachers. And of course, we would have to apply that across the board. 60% of our enrollment is high school teachers. So we are trying to show them the benefits to their students. For example, UMA did a fantastic job this year. They provided individual reports to each high school with a thank you. They showed the enrollment numbers. Here's how your students performed. Here's how much money your students saved in tuition, and kudos to your teachers. So we're trying to show that the effort that students are and how successful the students are. So we're trying to do it that way. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. We do have some work to do in that area, but that is something that we're working on.
So I wasn't suggesting, although it would be lovely, but given our budget, but is there anything with the Department of Education, because as teachers move up their own career ladders and their performance is reviewed, is there any way to formalize some kind of credential or something so that teachers get the benefit of that in their own reviews? Just a thought.
Yep, and I think that high schools do that to some extent already. But that is something I can bring. I'm actually meeting with the DOE for our regular meeting with the community college system tomorrow. So I can bring that up. And I think that is a good point. It's like we have to more of those intrinsic rewards, which is just tough right now in the mass exodus of teachers. But
Barbara, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I join with other trustees in thanking you for a really wonderful and fact-filled presentation. I was struck by some of the faculty. I think it was Lisa who raised the issue of cannibalizing with respect to faculty at the campuses who now don't have enough students coming in who need their entry-level type of courses. And then it occurred to me that is it possible for the faculty who are facing that situation to be able to provide the early college courses via Zoom directly to the high school students?
we do have, the other, so 60% are concurrent enrollment through the high school. 40% are through online, but I think Lisa's concern was just when they matriculate, those classes are smaller because those students have already met some of those credentials. I don't know if you want to jump in, Lisa, to clarify.
Yeah, I do upward bound classes in the summer, which is like, I think it's defined for you, Amy, as the bridge classes that they take, where I'm teaching the students in a more traditional format. I would say the benefit of early college being delivered embedded in the high school is it's over their whole semester, which is longer than ours, or sometimes over their entire year, which obviously is longer. And it's like seeing them every day for small chunks of time. And I think that's a better delivery mode for kids of this age than if I was going to teach them, it's like 14 weeks and it's so much time and they have to do so much more work on their own in a college pedagogy than high school, where I believe that this is the best way for making them more successful. So although I agree that would, help defray some of the losses we'd have in enrollment, I do believe in the philosophy of how the college content is delivered for these kids in high school, especially some of them are as young as sophomores, right? So I think that everyday reminders over a long period of time is a better mode for them. But I do thank you. I just want to say, Jeff, thanks for your answer to my question about cannibalizing. I hear it as a good recruitment tool, and most people who know me on this Zoom will know I never use business terms, but it's kind of like a lost leader. Like we might be losing a little bit, but it's bringing the students in. So I totally understand that philosophy. Carolyn, I don't know if she's still here. She's probably laughing because she knows I never use business terms.
Yeah, I was actually going to send you a message to say, oh my goodness, thank you.
Okay, well, Amy, I really appreciate your presentation. You've done an outstanding job being peppered with questions for well over an hour. And I hope the faculty found this meaningful and that we did answer, I think we answered most of the questions that were raised in the discussion where Jeff and I displayed an amazing amount of ignorance of the early college situation. So let's take a 2 or 3 minute stretch break because, we've been sat for an hour and a half, but just 2 minute stretch break, and then we'll go on to the next agenda item. And again, thank you very much to the faculty.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone, let's try and get back to business if we can. Jeff, are you there on screen? Because I know you wanted to introduce this next.
Jeff just stepped out. He'll be back in just a moment.
I suppose the Learning Experiences Committee chair is never give anybody permission for a 2-minute break because it'll take more than 2 minutes. So, Jeff, you wanted to introduce this next topic with a little bit of history. So do you want to go ahead with that?
I'm happy to, and I'll rely on our brilliant law school president to fill in my gaps in this item. So we have in tab 4, the proposed mission statement for the University of Maine School of Law coming forward from President Softly and her faculty. And then in tab 5, an allowance for a change in board policy that would appear for that statement, once approved, to actually be part of our universe of statements. Some of you may note, if you've been on the board a little bit longer, and others on the screen as well, that beginning in 2019, there were a series of steps taken to disengage the law school from the University of Southern Maine, developed by the chancellor and former board chair Irwin, and then interim leader of the Maine School of Law and now provost Dimitri Baum, and others working out those steps. And as part of that, it has been envisioned since that time to develop and approve a mission statement for the law school. In addition, as President Softly reminded me last week, the law school would like to have a mission statement that's consistent with its own work on its updated strategic plan, a strategic plan being updated to be consistent with and advancing the aims of the law school alongside and in alignment with the newly approved system-wide strategic plan. So we have a moment where the law schools come forward with a mission statement. We have an opportunity to divine the trustees' views on that statement, and then a procedural move that would be necessary in order to include the statement in a formal board policy. Some of you may recall that a year ago, we put forward a draft version, a very different draft version of the law school statement as part of our NECHI self-study, agreeing at the time among all parties, including President Softly and her leadership team, that we wanted the law school to be represented in the self-study, but that the approval of final mission statement by the board would follow the conclusion of the NECHI evaluation process. And the last point that I'll note, and you'll see it reflected in the in tab 5, addressing the actual board policy, is a point that Trustee Alexander made very helpfully last week, and others as well, that this development of the mission statement for the law school is, of course, related to one of the goals within the new system-wide strategic plan, which is review of mission statements across the system. So mission statements are now and could be in the future under consideration and discussion between trustees and the chancellor and the presidents. And as we take a look at their across the system, those statements alignment with the new strategic plan and the aims of the system as a whole under unified accreditation. So with that, I think I would turn it over to President Softly for anything that she would like to say.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And I will shortly turn it over to Dimitri, who is working with the faculty on both mission statement, values, and a strategic plan that is that mirrors and works with the strategic plan developed by the system itself. So just a tiny bit more history there. The last full strategic plan created by the University of Maine School of Law was created in 2014. The anticipation was that it would carry the law school through about 5 years. Many of you know that in 2014, 15, 16, the law school began to fail. And by 2018, the school was in really terrible trouble. And people were asking themselves whether Maine would become the second state in the nation to have no law school. Alaska is the other state that has no law school. At that point, the committee to study the future of the law school was put together. It created a wonderful path forward. That path forward was accepted by the board and by the chancellor, including Chancellor Malloy. And incrementally, that path was really the strategic plan for saving the law school. So as you've heard from Jeff, the law school became an independent university reporting directly to the board and the chancellor. And the law school's leader is now also a president, and I am present at all of the presidential meetings, which is an honor beyond belief. And the law school has found support and really an enormous new life within the university system itself. There's lots of collaboration going on. Ryan has spent untold hours helping us figure out how to move forward with a budget that had really, truly been completely decimated. We are now at the point where that plan coming from the future committee is ready to be handed off to the ordinary process of determining the next strategic plan, creating the mission statement, creating the statement of values. And at this point, Dimitri has led the faculty through a process to determine the mission statement of Maine law. One of the things we learned is that law schools across the country, many of them have reduced their lengthy and somewhat verbose mission statements to very direct mission statements. And that's what you will see in what Dimitri is going to talk to you about today, along with the values statement. Understand that we do not yet have the full new strategic plan. That is in the works. Faculty are meeting regularly, dealing with issues around really our wonderful programs and how we are going to move forward in an economically efficient fashion and still be the exciting law school that we're becoming right now. And when we get into November, I'll be giving you some numbers that will help you understand that your support for Maine law has made a huge difference for students graduating from this law school. But we'll get to that later. I'm going to turn it over to Dimitri to talk to you about this brief, but really, I think, direct and punchy mission statement that the faculty have presented to you today.
Okay, well, thanks, Lee. Jeff and Lee covered about 90% of what I was going to say, so I was furiously crossing things out. I'm going to take up too much of your time. I'm really just adding a little bit of background. The current mission statement was written in 2016 when Danielle Conway arrived as dean. After the major structural changes in 2019, we really operated under the future direction document as our strategic plan. But it was time for a new process, and and for a number of reasons. I mean, one is the new system-wide plan and having our plan kind of be in line with system plan. We've made tremendous progress under that future direction document and want to incorporate that into the strategic plan. And the one piece that hasn't been mentioned is that our ABA accreditation visit is happening this spring. So not only do we think it was an important time to assess our priorities, but also we're required to do so by the ABA. And so we're engaging in that process as part of our ABA site visit. We met as part of the process last spring as a faculty to review and approve this draft of the mission statement. We've continued to make some minor revisions to the value statements until obtaining final approval from the faculty this fall. And yes, as Lee mentioned, in terms of content, I think the statement basically speaks for itself. It's not a major departure substantively from the old statement. We wanted to expressly mention inclusivity in the mission statement. We think it's an important value, important mission, part of the mission Maine law experience. We felt that the previous mission statement was a little bit clunky, a little bit jargony in places. We think the new one is a little more succinct and concise, but makes kind of the same points in fewer words. And as Lee mentioned, as I understand it, the board approves the mission statement under the APL. I think we'll continue to work on our values as we go through the strategic planning process. We in fact had a recommendation already from one of our new faculty members to add belonging to that first value of inclusivity. So I suspect that's a minor change that we might make internally here. And there may be other changes happening to the values in the future. But I think most of the faculty and the staff are happy with the kind of the current draft of the mission statement that's in front of you today. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the trustees? Emily.
David, thank you. I just want to say, I think this is really excellent work. I think we are all on the strategic planning side, we're really watching things start to take shape, and the committee is going to be into more of that work later this week. But it's, I think this is really excellent work. It seems like a great process, and I just want to say thank you. I think it's in the spirit in which we were. It's consistent with the spirit of all of the work we're trying to do right now. I think as we balance the collective impact and identity of the system with the importance of maintaining and stewarding the individual identities of the campuses. And it's just a great job. I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'll read the proposed resolution. That the Academic and Student Affairs Committee forwards this item to the November 6, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following resolution. That the Academic and Student Affairs Committee approves the updated Maine School of Law mission and forwards this item to the November 6, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting for approval. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Emma, seconded by Trish. Any discussion? If not, Kayla, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Martin, trustee Riley,
Yes.
and trustee Alexander.
Yes.
The motion carries.
It's a yes for me, Kayla, too. I couldn't find my mute button.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next item, as Jeff indicated, is the proposed changes to Board of Trustees Policy 301.9, Maine School of Law mission. Kayla, would you like to introduce this?
Sure. The only thing I'd like to add to what Jeff added is if you look at the student trustee, or not the student, the Board of Trustees policy, section 300 deals with academic affairs. And there's a different subsection to 301 for each of the campuses to house their mission and vision statements. And this simply would add section 301.9 specifically for the Maine School of Law.
Any questions? Seeing none, I will read the resolution. That the Academic and Student Affairs Committee forwards this item to the November 6, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following resolution. That the Academic and Student Affairs Committee approves this change to Board Policy 301.9 Maine School of Law mission and forwards this item to the November 6, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting for approval. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trish, seconded by Emily. Any discussion? Seeing none, Kayla, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Martin,
Yes.
trustee Riley,
Yes.
and trustee Alexander.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. The next agenda item is review and discussion of the academic year 23-24 work plan. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, Trustee McMahon. Trustees, you have a copy of the work plan, the draft work plan, excuse me, in your board materials. I just have a couple of minor edits to the draft, that recommended edits to the draft as you've seen it, reflecting information that's come in since we put it forward, and also correcting of an error that I made in the earlier draft. Academic year calendars are mentioned in several places, and the 2 years that are named are academic year are AY 27-28 and AY 28-29. Those 2 calendar years have actually been approved. So the 2 that will come before the board later this year are AY 29-30 and AY 30-31. That's it, just so you're aware of that. Also, academic calendar does not require first and second readings, so they'll come forward once and not twice, not for multiple readings. And relatedly, academic calendars come before the board as informational items, not items for approval. They're worked out by the registrars, me and others in advance in relation to accreditation requirements for numbers of weeks of classes offered, accounting for various federal holidays, accounting for holidays recognized by the system. All of that comes forward through the registrars chiefly in a schedule that is common to all campuses across the University of Maine system. And we bring that to you as an informational item. The last thing I'll say about that is that it will most likely come to you in March and not in January, as indicated previously on the one portion of the draft plan, because we only need to bring it forward once, and we expect to have it ready to go. The registrars by March, the registrars are actually well ahead of the normal pattern for developing the next 2 calendars. So March puts us in good stead with the expectations of the board office and the expectations of the trustees historically for bringing the next 2 completed calendars to you. And then 2 other items for you with respect to this draft. You'll see that we put forward the micro-credentials update as being shared by me at the November BOT meeting instead of the September meeting. That then leads me to move the VCASA 23-24 demographics, enrollment, and trends update from November to January. The chief rationale for moving that demographics, enrollment, and trends update from November to January is that census for our system was yesterday, and board materials for the November meeting are due in 2 days. So I have quite an array of data available to me from our fantastic IR staff, from Jamie Ballinger, from Ryan's office, and from other sources. I would like to put together a comprehensive and rigorous presentation for you for the January meeting. I don't know why in the past that presentation has been scheduled for November, but it makes a whole lot more sense to me, and I can give you much more information and much better information in January than in November. So that's my recommendation to you. So with those changes with respect to the academic calendar items, I've clarified with the micro-credentials update from me coming at the November board meeting and the demographics update coming to you at the January board meeting. Those are my suggested amendments to the draft plan, and would welcome any questions or comments trustees have about the proposed 2023-24 work plan. Trustee Alexander, please.
Thank you very much. And I would like to apologize that I did not get these questions identified prior to the meeting or concerns. But what I couldn't see in here was any direct link to certain aspects of the strategic plan that I thought would be likely allocated or integrated into our discussions. And I was kind of hoping to see a work plan that would reflect the new strategic plan objectives and how we would be reviewing those at our regular meetings. Is that intended to come later, or what am I missing here? Thank you.
It's a great question. It is intended to come soon, Trustee Alexander. Carolyn and I had a terrific conversation a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, with Trustee Kane about how to do exactly that. Report out through the Strategic Planning Committee, updates and progress that needs to be reported through that group, but then also our related concern is to figure out how best to align the work of this committee in particular, ASA, with the objectives, as you rightly call them, of the strategic plan, and then report out, do the work of ASA and report out to this body accordingly. So we want to make sure we have a mechanism for reporting out through the strategic planning committee that's satisfactory to the trustees in that context. And then we want to mirror that and map it to the work being done at ASA for sure. So it's a matter of sequence, not a matter of neglect or oversight. I can assure you that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I'm hoping to see some indication in our work plan that would come forward as an amendment. Is that what you're telling me here?
Happy to do that. So why don't I work on that in consultation with after speaking with the Strategic Planning Committee on Thursday, and then bring it back to Trustee McMahon and then on to the trustees of this committee for your consideration. That would be great.
Right. So I could approve this work plan, but only with the understanding is that in my mind, it's basically an interim work plan. So.
I don't have a strong preference here today, Barbara, unless Trustee McMahon does. This will function as a draft until all the trustees are happy that it's no longer a draft, and the work goes on irrespective. So I'm with whatever timing David is more comfortable with, I'm fine with that.
And I'm fine with whatever timing. I mean, it's not an action item today, it was an information item on the agenda. And I appreciate your comments. Barbara, I agree with you 100%. That needs to be in there. It's just a question of the chicken or the egg. Which way does it go? Any other questions? Barbara, you still have your hand up.
I would just add to that, and I think Jeff mentioned it, but also it is part of the discussion planned for Thursday's strategic plan committee meeting.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Any other question? If not, it's time to move into executive session. So could I have a motion for the Board of Trustees meeting to go into executive session under the provision of 1 MRSA section 4056A to discuss the evaluation of personnel and the consideration and discussion of appointments, evaluations, employment, and duties? Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I didn't catch that. Did you catch who that was?
Yes.
Kelly moved.
Kelly moved. And the second was?
Trustee Riley. Yep.
Okay, fine. Kayla, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Of course. Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
and Trustee Alexander.
Yes.
The motion carries. And bear with me as I move you into executive.